Okay, so my talk will be covering communication skills, how, when, and whom to write, but with a particular focus on social media. So firstly, I just want to talk about the importance of communications within marketing. Now, having a really strong mindset in terms of what communications you're going to be focused on helps create a powerful message for your organization, which in turn enhances brand transparency. Now, by brand transparency, what I mean is how open and honest your brand appears to be with your target audience. What is the type of communications that you are putting out through your social channels that really says to the people you're trying to engage with, they really are open and honest about who they are trying to speak to and what they are trying to achieve. So with the right communications approach, your stakeholders will really find it easy to connect with your organization. So it's in the sense of having an approach which identifies the sort of key needs and the key values of your target audience, and using those needs and values to actually replicate them into your communication strategy. And by having that approach, this will allow you to have an effective brand voice. Now, a brand voice concerns the general tone and the general focus of the communications that you put on your social media channels. So are they looking to produce a sense of leadership? Are they quite friendly and open? It's essentially the tone that you want to have, which reflects your brand values and your brand goals. So say, for example, if you wanted to have a reputation within your industry as a strong leader or as an authority, this type of tone would have to be reflected in your communications. And hopefully that would enhance your values and your goals and really help engage with your target audience. Now, I just wanted to show you a couple of examples of some of the work we've been doing with the Rare Anemias International Network, or RAIN, which kind of reflects some of the points that I've just mentioned. So if we just look at the example on the left, the very first statement we put out there is empowering patient advocacy groups around the world. Now, that's a very strong and a direct message. This sets out straight away what the organization is all about and what we are trying to do. And then that's followed up on the second line with how we're wanting more people to get involved in this campaign. We're wanting more people to become members of RAIN now. And then following up with a strong call to action in terms of how other people can help us do that by spreading the word on our social communities. And the second example I wanted to include, again, really shows this sense of community and belonging and how we want our members to actually feel part of this community. So for this particular social post, we added the text, help unite the voices of rare anemias around the world and become a member of RAIN. Now that's a really strong emotive call to action, which we found can be really successful whenever you're putting together your social media communications. But I'll talk about that a little bit more in a couple of the slides, but that's just a couple of examples of how we want our brand values and our brand goals to be reflected in all the communications that we do on social media. Okay, so now I'm just going to talk a little bit about how to optimize social media. So essentially by optimizing, we're talking about how can we get the most out of social media in terms of the resource that we dedicate into it and in terms of the impact, in terms of helping us achieve our objectives. And I think it's really interesting, again, that Craig mentioned before, it's so important to start with a plan and set goals and objectives, really finalize what you're hoping to achieve and work out how and why you're going to use social media. So say, for example, if you had an objective of getting more people to visit your website, think about what communications you could include on your social channels that would encourage people to do that. What sort of information could you include that would gauge their interest, that would really get them excited about your organization and encourage them to actually visit your website? And then think backwards in terms of, right, what content could we have in place that would help us get more website visitors? And secondly, it's really important to decide which platforms are right for you. Some organizations think we need to be present on every single social media channel. And more often than not, that's not the case, because that's not where your audience are. So for example, you could be spending a lot of time on a particular social media channel and pulling all communications together for that channel. But in reality, your target audience just simply aren't present on there. So it could be a lot of time and wasted resource. So it's really important to figure out which social media platforms are right for you, and understanding, which audiences are on that particular platform. So again, just to pull an example from our work, we deal a lot with healthcare practitioners, a variety of students and medical doctors. So for us, a particular platform that works really well is LinkedIn, because we know that our audience is on there. There's other social media platforms, perhaps they aren't as prominent on, for example, TikTok. So that's something that, we don't tend to focus our time on at the moment. This may change, social media preferences can change, but at the moment, because of our approach, we're fully aware of where our target audience are on social media and focusing our efforts on those channels. When you're using social media as well, it's so important to build relationships. It's vital to have that connection and that understanding with what your audience is looking to hear and to read from you whenever you're putting posts together. To try and be as engaging and as interactive with your followers as possible. A lot of the time that will involve two-way conversation. So you could put out a statement in terms of what your organization has been up to recently or what you're currently working on. But then you could follow up with asking your target audience their opinion on that particular area. So again, it's a method of actually encouraging and starting conversations and developing those relationships. And again, hopefully going towards building more trust within your brand for your target audience. And then finally, reporting is key. Look at how your audience are engaging with your content and make sure you record all of these analytics so you can see growth and can further optimize future posts. You could pull together a content strategy which could focus on a certain number of areas, and for a variety of reasons, that particular content piece may perform better than another particular content piece. Now, it's really important to have an awareness of understanding why that is the case. And by having regular reporting and an awareness of what content is really resonating with your target audience, that will allow you to have that. And then that will allow you to help plan future content strategies as well, because you know that your target audience is particularly favorable to that particular aspect of content. And then you can see to look to optimize it as best as possible. And again, just a few more examples, again, I wanted to share of how we're looking to optimize our social media. So for these particular posts, this was looking at promoting World Marrow Donor Day. So again, it's very clear and very direct in terms of what we are looking to promote. And in terms of the content, what we were aiming to do with this particular piece of communication was to share education and to share awareness and hopefully inspire people to share that education. So we put together a series of facts. So for the first fact, it's trying to debunk particular myths in terms of the painful process of donating marrow, and that's simply not the case. And again, we're looking to hopefully inspire our audience by saying you could help save a life. So by using the educational approach, we're hoping to inspire our audience to actually share this content and hopefully become more involved and more engaged in some of the communications activity that we're doing for RAIN. Okay, I just want to talk about now some simple writing tips. And again, Craig's advice was fantastic before, really enjoyed it in terms of putting a structure together. But from my own point of view, the sort of key words that I like to stick to are know, feel, do. What are you wanting your audience to know? How are you wanting them to feel? And what are you wanting them to do? And if you have those three sort of like key points in terms of a structure within your social content, it will hopefully be a lot more effective in terms of engaging with your audience. So firstly, we need to make your posts highly relevant to your audience. And that can involve particular industry updates that they are connected with, updates about future plans for your organization. But just try and ensure that whatever you're posting to your target audience is of particular interest to them, and it's something that they'll want to engage with. Secondly, try and speak your audience's language. Again, if you're dealing with particular technical fields or really strong scientific aspects, try and incorporate that language as much as possible. That will make sure that they know that you understand their language, you understand their industry, and it will hopefully encourage more conversations as well. And again, I mentioned previously, try and have a consistent voice. This helps your community connect with you emotionally, build trust, and ensure that your social media posts are just like theirs. Whenever you write a post, the key aim is that a target audience member will hopefully share it. Now, they will only share it to their network if it reflects their own individual values and goals. So if you can actually make that one of your sort of like key writing points whenever you're putting some social content together, that will hopefully encourage more shares and more likes from your target audience, because it is a reflection of who they are and hopefully why they choose to follow and engage with you. Next, try and be positive. You want your audience to be inspired by your posts. They want to be informed and they want to be motivated. It goes back to a particular example I just used previously, where we want people to unite, to come together, to be stronger, for example. This type of emotive language really resonates with people, and it helps them feel that they are part of the community that you're trying to develop and sustain on social media. Again, another sort of key point is try and keep it short and simple and direct to the point. If you think about the people you're trying to target, they are inundated with so many messages from the accounts they are following. So it needs to be direct to the point, and it needs to be eye-catching as well. So it needs to be quite easy to read. And again, try and use images and videos where possible. Just going back to that previous point, you're competing with other organizations and other channels and other companies when you post on social media to actually be more present within the individual feed. Images and videos can help you stand out. So again, wherever possible, this will help catch your readers' attention and hopefully engage with your content. And then finally, add a strong call to action. Make sure they know what you want them to do. If it is to share this post, if it is to visit your website, make sure it's really clear and straightforward, and so the people that you're trying to engage with know exactly what to do. And again, this is just some examples that I wanted to highlight in terms of the emotive language that can particularly resonate with your target audience. We are stronger together. And again, there's a strong call to action in terms of join the Rare Anemias International Network today. Again, we mentioned about feeling inspired and informed whenever you're creating social content. And again, education sharing is a really key example of that. So for this one, we used, did you know that one blood donation can potentially save 3 lives? That's a really interesting piece of information that we hope people would not just share online, but also share face-to-face as well. So it really gets their attention. And again, it's a strong emotive call. Make a difference today to someone's life, and then hopefully donate blood. Some methods of communications that we can briefly discuss in terms of how you can promote these areas of communications on your social media channels. So if you're ever to do any advertising on magazines, on radio, what we tend to define as traditional media, you can also include links to your social channels as well. So people know that people can continue this information search for your social channels on there. Again, a really interesting piece of content in social is to share the events and the experiences that you're attending. So say, for example, if you're attending a congress, share your experience of that congress. What were you hoping to actually find out before you attended, and what were your key takeaways? And again, that's a really interesting, immersive experience for people who are following you on your social channels. They get a real strong insight from what was covered at a particular event or a congress, for example. Word of mouth, again, this can be improved through buzz marketing. This can help create a buzz around your activities, for example. So share that amongst social media. Share in terms of what you have planned for your organization, and again, encourage people to share. For public relations and publicity, this can often refer to things like press releases and really short, quick statements from your organization. Again, this really gives a quick indication of what you're trying to do in terms of increasing your reach with journalists, or for example, or bloggers, or really key influencers. And you can share that activity again for your social channels. For direct marketing, this is more concerned with emails or phone calls or WhatsApp groups, or even to an extent your email signature. Again, it's another opportunity to include links to your social channels to continue that conversation, develop that relationship. And finally, just one particular piece of content we found seems to work quite well for our channels is interactive marketing. For example, quizzes, games, content and polls. This was an example of how we're looking to actually create that relationship. We're actually asking our target audience for their opinion. We want to hear what they have to say on particular areas. So you could set up polls through LinkedIn or on Twitter. You could set up quizzes through Instagram. And it helps you give you an insight in terms of what your target audience is really thinking and feeling around a particular topic at the moment, and how you can use that feedback again to help inform your content strategy or develop those relationships further. Now, those areas that I've just discussed are all what we call organic marketing activity. So essentially there's no cost involved, but there is some paid cost options available through social media. So for example, you can run adverts on Facebook and be incredibly targeted by location, demographic, and profile information, for example. And you can also do that on Instagram ads as well, which can use more video content and actually feed into their stories. It can also be done on Twitter, so you can promote your tweets and be a lot more targeted. For example, if you wanted to promote a particular tweet to a particular country, there is options to do that as well. And then through LinkedIn ads, which we are using quite a lot at the moment within my organization, we are using this thing called dynamic ads. Now, these are adverts that are very personalized, tailored adverts that you can actually target specifically by demographic and even by role profile. So this has been really helpful for us in terms of engaging with a particular set of healthcare practitioners. For example, at the moment, we're running a campaign for primary care practitioners. And this has allowed us to actually directly contact and directly engage with them by knowing more about their role profile through LinkedIn. And finally, just to surmise, just a couple of areas of how you can actually evaluate your social media activity. These are a couple of the key metrics that we use, as I say, to see how effective your content has been on social media. So firstly, a conversion rate. Now, this is the number of visitors who, after clicking on a link in a post that you've created, take an action. So again, you could be wanting people to sign up for a newsletter and create an advert on Facebook. So once they've clicked on the link to actually go to your website and they sign up for a newsletter, that is the conversion, because that's what you've set up as a start, a key objective as your campaign, and they've actually gone ahead and done that. Other metrics include the click-through rate. That's how many people have clicked on the links compared to the number of impressions you get. Impressions is the amount of people who've actually seen your advert. So that's maybe not people who've actually interacted with it or engaged with it, but you know they would have seen it on their network and on their profile. Bounce rate refers to the amount of people who just have a single page visit. So say, for example, you could create an advert which gets people to your website homepage, but then they only stay on that homepage. They don't look around the rest of your website. So that's a really strong indicator in terms of, well, how engaging is our website? You know, how more welcoming and how much of an enjoyable experience should it be when people hit our homepage? Cost per click. This concerns how much you pay for every click on social media or ad, and this is really helpful for things like Google advertising, on paid display ads, and for Facebook adverts. But also cost per impression. As I mentioned before, that's the amount of people who've actually seen your ad, and that's an actual metric in terms of how much that's actually costed. And again, really strong metrics in terms of total followers. You can keep a track on how your community is growing. And then average likes per post. So that keeps a track of how many people are actually favorably enjoying your content and potentially looking to share it. Thank you very much. I say that's the end of my presentation. And if there's anybody else would like to ask any questions, I'd love to hear them. Thank you very much.